Hey guys, what is up? Roshi is here. We've got some balance changes. I was really excited when I saw this. Let's just look at these changes before I talk about them. We've got to loot. Now whenever you surge, basically does the same thing, but the buff is not, the minus is not permanent, so you can shrink all of their units for the turn and like attack in or use the relic weapon, I guess, just to kill stuff, but I guess this is fine. Like, it's still gonna clear out deadly minions and like make sure you can attack through those. Uh, I don't know. I'm not really a fan of this change. I don't think to loot was really the problem. Having access to him was just kind of cool. And I thought this was one of the cooler cards, you know, like whenever Tolut goes off, it's not like you just lose the game on the spot. Like, sure, you lose some aggression, but you still have blockers and you're not just dead. I actually thought Tolut was one of the more interesting parts of the combo. I'll talk more about it later, but let's look at the next change. We've got Aijin. Now, basically, she can only buff other minions. So Aijin won't be buffing herself when she comes into play anymore. And I think this is an okay change as well. Sometimes it was really annoying whenever your opponent would be at 6 justice and maybe you're clearing out all their stuff and then they're like, here's my 3 power 7/7. Oh, by the way, end of your turn, Silverblade Intrusion. Here's a, 1 power investment for just a free 7/7. And it's just like a big turnaround. Combine this Aijin with, friends in low places and Aijin herself, and you would quickly just build up this huge board, all thanks to Aijin. Now, you're still going to be able to do that. It's just, now you're going to have to use other cards to hit that other half. And another thing is you won't be able to, like, play Aijin and then something else. You won't trigger the weapon, so that's pretty good. So, obviously they were trying to dial back Rakano Surge here. And I guess they did a little bit. It never ceases to amaze me how they dance around the problem every single time they do this. It feels like whenever something just desperately needs nerfed, they are like, alright, well, we're just gonna nerf everything else but the problem. And the problem's obviously friends in low places. And I'm not the only one complaining about this. Between friends in low places and Silverblade Intrusion, it's just extremely hard to play around Rakano Surge. Being able to, just all of the lines of text that are on friends in low places, it's just a huge problem. Now, like, the changes they made are hardly going to change the way Rakano Surge plays now. They might just not play Tolut anymore because they don't need it. They'll just swap it out for something else, or maybe they still play it, but we're just gonna see more Marleys. And honestly, I feel like the deck functionally is going to play exactly the same way it has been. Maybe their Aijin's power is a little low, and maybe instead of Tolut, they have more Marleys. So you're gonna get your units and relics silenced and blown up a bit more than perhaps your board shrunk. But we're still just going to get blown out by friends in low places. We get to enjoy a few more months of our opponent mid-combat giving one of their unblocked units +4, and then ripping Trick Shot and giving something else +15, or just killing you. Or, super fun gameplay where, like, you block with your big, like, deadly unit, and they're like, oh, but here's this mid-combat Marley coming down, silencing your unit, or blowing up your relic, like, and plus the +4/+4 and plunder, so just gonna fix all of them. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just ranting at this point, but I feel like we've got 3 or 4 more months of Rakano Surge unless they decide to do something, because it's not often they target a deck twice. I guess, hopefully they prove me wrong, but my 2 cents on this is prepare yourselves, because more Rakano Surge is coming. The decks hardly got touched. I would have liked to have seen changes made to Silverblade Intrusion and or Friends in Low Places. The fact that these decks are leveraging other cards that I hate playing against too, I just really dislike playing against Rakano Surge. I think I basically dedicated the past week to trying to find a deck that beat it, And the deck that did like beat it super handily, um, required it still wasn't even that great of a win rate. We were still just randomly losing to our opponent. Like we'll be at sitting at like 25 health, and they've got one minion on the board, and they'd still just be like friends in low places, trick shot ruffian, you're dead or you're at like 2. Like you basically, if you wanted to beat Rakano, all you had to do, I mean, it's simple. Never let them have a board or counter friends in low places. So, yeah, just all you gotta do. Just kill everything they play or counter friends in low places, and then sure, you can beat them. I guess that's the end of my rant. One of the interesting things I kind of found is before we had friends in low places, there was a lot of buzz. There was a lot of Helio decks running around, a lot of turn to seed decks, and those decks have all been forced out of the meta. You don't really see them as much. Occasionally, you'll see a few on the ladder. I'm personally playing one, but those decks were hated. Like, people were complaining. And the only reason you're not seeing people complain now is because everyone's complaining about friends in low places. Note, I didn't say everyone's complaining about Talut. I didn't say everyone's complaining about Igene. We were complaining specifically about friends in low places. That card does too much. I said I was going to end my rant, but I just thought it was interesting that we went from having other broken cards getting complained about, or maybe pushed cards, to just no one talking about them because they printed a card that was so busted that you were either using it or dedicating every single ounce of your strategy to beating it. That's why we see so many Argenport decks, is because they're able to kind of handily deal with Rakano Surge, and a lot of their weapons, they don't really mind like killing something and then trading it off with Marley. It's not too huge of a loss for them. Now, if you get one of their backbreakers with Marley, that's pretty good, but they're playing stuff like Heirloom Blade or maybe like a Siphoner or something, like a Siphoner 3/3. They don't really mind losing that relic. And they're able to just trade pretty handily with a lot of Rakano Surge's stuff. It'll be interesting to see. Another thing, I mentioned I'd come back to Talut here. I actually think he was one of the more interesting, unique cards from the set. Talut allowed for a really fun interaction between Tavrod. The new Tavrod would, you'd use Talut and you'd minus their board, and then you'd play Tavrod and it would just wipe their board. And that was pretty cool, if not wiping it, making it super small. And I feel like that deck was pretty neat. It was cool. I didn't feel like it was that broken, but thanks to Rakano Surge just kind of arbitrarily playing this, because they just have free influence and just can play the 4-mana 5/5, we're kind of losing a fun card in exchange for some other cards that should have gotten nerfed, and they're going to continue to be broken. So, in my opinion, I'd like to see friends in low places. I'd like to see the buff, the nerf be, it doesn't need to be crazy, just have it only flip 3 drops. I lose brain cells every time my opponent flips a Marley and blows up one of my relics off friends in low places. Or, maybe have it make only 3 of the decay guys. So that way, it's still gonna be a really strong, game swingy card. You're still gonna get your trick shot turns where you can maybe one-shot someone out of nowhere. But it's not gonna be this huge... It'll still be pretty blowouty, but they're gonna miss more often, you know what I mean? And then if you're nerfing friends in low places down to 3, only hitting 3 drops and less, now Talut doesn't get flipped into play with friends in low places, so people might not run them anyway. Maybe they still do, but I feel like, as always, they're just always trying to dodge nerfing the promo for whatever reason. I suppose I've ranted about this a good bit. In going forward, we're going to see a lot of Rakano Surge. Potentially, now that the need for as much justice on 4 is gone, we might see Rakano Surge splashing. So, potentially, you'll see them running Supplier or, stuff like Desert Marshal. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Those are the changes. I figured I'd just make a little recording of my thoughts because I had a lot to say. Most of it not good. And you know what? Sometimes the developers have, they have a different idea for the game than I do, maybe. I prefer playing, these fun, like, mid-rangey decks. Stuff like to loot, would just kind of fall into that theme where you can do some really cool things with it. And I hate to see the cool cards get nerfed for the sins of the morbidly wall of texty broken cards that just have too many lines of text, like Jack or Milos or Friends in Low Places. They're just examples of really cheap cards that have too many lines of text on bodies that are already strong enough. Like, they don't need that many lines of text. Let's Control A and delete some of those lines. But thank you for watching. These were my thoughts, and have a good one, guys.